Welcome back to the 1111 Synchronized Podcast broadcast. Everyone, take a deep breath in. Inhale lots of love in. Exhale lots of love out. Hope everyone is well. Hope this is meeting you in the best spirits. Please take care of yourself and others out there. And if you have any topic requests that you'd like to hear, please send them to my inbox at Agent K21 Podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Agent K21. Find me on all the social media platforms. Find a way to connect with me and let me know what you want to hear. Let me know if you want to be a feature on the channel or if you'd like me to be a feature on yours. I'm open and available, so let's go. I want to start off by saying a simple thank you to all the listeners, and also just sending out my love to all of those who are, as we all are experiencing this transition of the world, but especially for those who have been impacted directly or indirectly by COVID-19 and the corona and all that stuff that's going on. There's a lot of people who may be transitioning and grieving right now. And I want to start off by just giving honor to another member of my family has transitioned. I tried to record this episode yesterday, and I attempted to. I did record it, but it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. I was like, I'm going to just wait another day. And I was like, man, I don't want to, keep the people waiting. But you got to move with your intention and you got to move with the flow of life. And I'm glad I waited to now because I feel such a relief now. I was really, I don't want to say burdened yesterday, but just kind of grieving and still grieving, but definitely in a lighter place. So for those who are grieving right now and who are having difficulty, I'm sending out my love and my peace and energy towards you guys. Today was the homegoing, and I don't know what was more. I'm still kind of feeling just complicated emotions right now because this is my first time attending a virtual funeral. And, my heart breaks to not be able to be there with them in person and to celebrate her homegoing, her life, her legacy with everyone in person. It was very heartbreaking, not only to not be there, but to see the people, wearing masks and not being able to be close and just all of that. So it's almost like, it's almost more painful this way. I mean, there have been times in my life where I wasn't able to attend a funeral or homegoing because of work or school or out of the country or whatever the case was. But this is almost feels more painful in a way because it's like so close but yet so far. And, in other cases, you already know the reality. It is what it is. I'm not going to be able to go. But this is like, I want to go, but I can't. And so, for those who have experienced attending a virtual funeral or homegoing, it's an interesting thing, and I think we all kind of attended one, live with Kobe and with Michael Jackson and all those people that we might have watched, Whitney, all of those people that we might have watched streaming. Kind of similar, but different because we didn't have a personal relationship with them. We may or may not have met them in this life. So, I just want to say, let's just have a moment of silence for that. If you would join me. Thank you all. Thank you all. And, today is a happy day because it's a homegoing. It's a celebration. We transition from one world to enter into another. So, and the good thing, not the good thing, but the blessing in this all is that for every good night, there's a good morning. So the departure of my great aunt it also introduces the arrival of my nephew, So this week, my aunt transitioned to the world that my nephew just came from, basically. And so it's all a celebration. And, grieving is a process. So take your time and mourn and grieve. There's no set duration. There's no set way. There's no right or wrong way to do that. Do whatever your spirit tells you to, Yesterday when I was trying to record this episode, I was going against the grain. I was trying to think my way through it, and I kind of have gotten myself out of that. I haven't done that very often. And so it was almost like, why am I trying to force recording an episode right now instead of just being present? And so taking a moment to meditate, to pray, connect, whatever it is that, we do to connect to ourself and to our source. Take that time to do that, No judgment. Don't judge yourself. Love and honor where you are and who you are. And so with this transition, there may be a lot of spiritual awakenings happening right now on the planet. A lot of light codes being activated. I can see them. I'm like, whoa. And so I want to talk about spiritual awakening. Like, what is that? And how do you know if you're going through it? What exactly is a spiritual awakening? And so I'm going to speak from my perception of it. There is, of course, resources that you can find. Go talk to your best friend. Google is your friend. Go holla at Google. And you can definitely research. And I encourage you to research this for yourself if you feel kind of disconnected from the world and yes, the world's on fire, if you will. The world's falling apart, collapsing. But with every collapse, there's an expansion. So through this, certain people are going to start to question more. Certain people may start to awaken more. And they're going to be people and things that just come into your existence. And you're like, whoa, I was just thinking of that. Or, whoa, this is weird, but I'm drawn to it for some reason. I would encourage you to go towards all of those things, and there may be people who come into your life to help you. There will be people on your journey to help you who signed up especially just to help you on this journey as you ascend, as the world ascends right now. So this information may be new. You may be feeling lost, confused, scared. Just know that it's okay. Know that people have gone through this before you, and people are here to help you along the way and lead the way with you. So spiritual awakening, there can be many symptoms that can happen as you start to spiritually awaken. And essentially, it's awakening to the true essence of who you are. We come into this life and we're whole as we begin. Then we begin to be conditioned and programmed, and we have to be molded for society. And we all fall back asleep and we forget who we truly are. So when we awaken, we're awakening to who we truly are, not the facade that we portray to be, but the essence of ourselves. This temple that we operate in, this body is just the shell for the essence of who we are. And so when we have a spiritual awakening, we awaken to our spirit, we awaken to our soul. We start to see the oneness. We are able to see through illusions of separation and racism and all of those things that operate out of the fear vibration, such as hate and, anything like that. And we start to awaken to the love and to who we truly are. We realize that we're one with the universe. We reconnect with God, source, energy, love, I am, all of that. We connect back to where we came from. And, there's different ways for everyone. Everyone is on their own unique path and journey. So there's no right or wrong. You have to follow your own internal compass, which is going to be your intuition, your feelings, your inner knowing. All of that stuff is that small voice that you hear. That's really all of the things guiding you to your higher self. So a few symptoms may be having headaches. You feel this insane pulsating thing in the middle of your head, and it's typically right where your third eye is, and it just feels like it's just pounding away. And it can be, having a headache, anything like that. And again, your body best, so If you feel like this is out of the scope of something spiritual, please go to a physician, go see a doctor. You know your situation best. But I also want to encourage that some spiritual awakenings may make you feel like you're going crazy. It may make you feel like you have a mental health disability. And I want to encourage you to meditate and connect to the spirit if that works for you, to find out, is this a mental health concern, or is this actually a spiritual awakening? And it's a really fine line. You have to be very discerning in that. And it's no problem to go get evaluated. However, be very diligent in whose opinion you really trust, because so many people in the healthcare field can be just about money, unfortunately. Can be just about wanting to slap diagnosis on people. And that's honestly the reason why I got into counseling, is because I realized so many people are misdiagnosed, because a lot of people in the healthcare field can be very scientific and lack the empathy or the spiritual properties that come with it. Not all, but a few. Most people may not even believe in spiritual awakenings, and they just think, well, this person's insane. And oftentimes it can be not the case, because when you operate not of this world, it's going to look very crazy. It's going to look very strange and odd and weird. And a lot of people judge and fear what they don't understand. So if that's been your experience, know that you're not going crazy, and that there are people who are here to help, who understand the spiritual realm. They understand things that are not medically or even used with the mind to try to figure out. And you have to be very, very careful, very discerning to know what is actually a spiritual awakening versus oftentimes it can be camouflaged as a nervous breakdown. And often it's because we live in a world that is not conducive to our spirit. So it's like our spirit is rebelling to get out of this chamber that we've tied it into, and it breaks down. That's kind of what the world's doing. It's breaking down as it's transitioning. Gaia, Mother Earth, is having a spiritual awakening. It had to go, we got to stop this train before we crash it. And oftentimes it can be a very scary, lonely path. Again, it operates differently for people. So find those good resources, pray, ask the universe to send those sources to you. Ask for discernment, ask for wisdom. All of those things will be granted to you if you ask. When you ask, it will be received. And so anyway, back to the symptoms. So you can have a headache, you can have tummy aches, you can have anxiety, depression, bowel movements, hot and cold flashes, tingling vibration feelings. You can see flashes of light, seeing orbs, seeing just different stuff in the atmosphere, ringing in the ears, heart palpitations, vivid, lucid dreams, shaking, trembling, feeling heavy, feeling tired, feeling lethargic, feeling spiritually and emotionally drained, gut feelings, having deja vu, dry mouth, feeling like you can't breathe, feeling like you're suffocating, not sleeping, not eating. You feel like time doesn't exist. You're kind of able to transcend time and space. And it can feel like years, days have gone by and it's only been like a minute. So those are a few symptoms that I've noticed can happen. Those are a few things that can happen. I'm going to read a post that I saw a while back. If I can find it again, I'm going to read a post that I saw that talks about spiritual awakening. And I think that it's a pretty good representation of some symptoms that can happen. But yeah, so this comes from an Instagram post This is from at 5D_awakening_consciousness. That's at 5D_awakening_consciousness. So they have the spiritual awakening 11 common signs of an awakening. Number 1, you know there's more to life than what's been told to you since you were born. You have new cravings for healthier foods and all organic health products. New friends and relatives seem to fall into your life that help in your awakening. Miraculous events begin appearing frequently. They remain unforgettable and puzzling to you. You seek answers. You spend hours researching spiritual knowledge and higher consciousness. You feel the need to change yourself, your looks, your living location, your hobbies. You have vivid, lucid, and clairvoyant dreams at night, which keep getting more and more bizarre and out of this world. You have sudden emotional mood swings. You have a newfound love for life. You want to transform yourself from disharmony into a new body of perfection. You know everything will always be all right. Those are the 11 spiritual awakening signs according to 5D Awakening Consciousness. So if you're experiencing any of those feelings, you may be, in fact, going through a spiritual awakening. I do provide, I've mentioned this before, but for those who may be hearing this for the first time, I do provide counseling at, no cost really. If you go to my @AgentK21 page on Instagram, the link in the bio will take you to my counseling website. When you go there, you click on service, and a few of you have tried to make appointments. For some reason, they didn't go through. So if you're one of those people who tried to make an appointment, it's working. You can go back to the website and book a session for yourself there. The prices listed are just suggested and recommended, but they're not enforced. I accept donations, but that's about it. So if you are interested in learning more about spiritual awakening, or just want a listening ear, you just want someone to talk to, that's what I'm here for. That's what I provide. And so, yeah, you can go ahead and book yourself a session. And so the spiritual awakening process, it can begin at any time, at any age, at any phase. And oftentimes it can either precede a ego death or a dark night of the soul, or it can happen after a dark night of the soul. If you're not familiar with what a dark night of the soul is, I did an episode with 2 of my friends, so check that out and learn more about that as well. But really, it's awakening to the essence of who you are. And I love this scene in the movie The Matrix when Neo, when Neo has, been unplugged from the Matrix, as some of us are. He's been unplugged from the Matrix, and his whole body is being reconstructed for the new normal, the new world that he's in. And he's, going through this entire process and transformation, and he has acupuncture done to him. And he's just like, he says to Morpheus, he says, "Why do my eyes hurt so bad?" And Morpheus says, "It's because you've never used them." And so when we have the spiritual awakening, we're literally opening our eyes for the first time to the truth. And a lot of people can find the truth hard to hear, and that's why I really connect with my ascended master, because he was and is the truth and was killed for that truth. And so the truth can be not readily digested, if you will. So when you start to have a spiritual awakening, you start to question, you start to look for the answers, because you're like, what is this? Why are we here? What are we doing? There has to be more to this life than just the sleep, eat, have kids, and die life, And it starts to unravel all the false pretense of who we are. And we start to realize, wait, we're powerful. We're marvelous beings, We all come from different universes. We are the universe. We have so much power that we're not tapping into. And so we start to awaken, and those gifts that have always been within us, that may have just been dormant, they start to awaken. So you might start having some new superpowers coming. You're starting to be able to feel the energy of the room. You're starting to just have an inner knowing. You're hearing things that you don't know how you're hearing them. You're able to translate languages you've never heard before. There's so many different things can happen. And there's so many spiritual gifts. You just see stuff now. You see things differently. And, it said something in that last post about perfection, but I don't think it's about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being authentic. It's about striving for excellence, not perfection. And so there's no right or wrong path that you can take on this journey, because all paths, all rivers lead to the ocean. So it doesn't matter which path you take or how long it takes. You're going to end up right where you need to be when you need to be there. And so as you're going through this awakening process, just know that you are well, know that you are safe, know that it is okay. And it can be very confusing, but reach out to other people. We have the social web now, the social net, to help captivate those people who are looking for you. I had someone reach out to me and say, hey, I think we're from the same tribe. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk, and it's really awesome to just kind of reach out. And especially right now with life being very uncertain, reach out for help, reach out for connection. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about my own personal spiritual awakening. But before I do, I'm going to take a break. So I thank you all for who have listened. And, if you like, stay tuned for the second half where I'm going to actually talk about my own spiritual awakening, and we'll go from there. So I hope everyone is well, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys, to the 1111 Synchronized Podcast. Thank you all for staying. Thank you all for joining or recommitting back to this episode. So my spiritual awakening process started around 2008. So the way my ascension has been, it's been in threes. It's been on a rhythmic pattern of threes for a while now. And I feel like it's finally on the track that it's been trying to get on for a long time. It's been a lot of ups and downs, false starts, ego deaths, dark night of the soul, several times. And it's a beautiful thing. And so that I call the pre-spiritual awakening the years between 2007 and 2009. So 2007, the end of 2007, I had just joined a sorority, and I just started to question everything. Everything that I thought I knew, I started to question. And it came to me clear as night. I heard the Spirit say to me to get rid of all my hair, to cut my hair off, and to start anew, to start fresh. And I was like, whoa, what? And my hair was really, really long. It was like down the middle of my back. But it was, women in the African American community, we relax our hairs. We put perms and dyes and all these different chemicals in our hairs that are not good for it. And I was just told, get rid of all the process and start natural. And this was at a time when not a lot of people were natural or bald. And so I was like, okay, that's what my spirit was telling me. Now, what my mind was saying was like, hey, this might work because you want to lock your hair anyway eventually. So you're going to cut your dreads off and your locks. So maybe this will show you how the shape of your head will look then. So let's use this to our advantage. My mind had to make it work for me. And so I did that. But that was the spiritual message behind that. And that's when I started to change or awaken. And I started to have, a lot of people not understand me, just looking at me like, what are you doing? What just happened? And growing up, people would always tell me, you're so wise for your age. You're wiser than your years, and all that stuff. And my family would tell me how they didn't necessarily know what to do because I had so much wisdom. And it kind of created a fear of myself, because when I would speak, people would just sit there and stare at me. And it was always this fear that I would see on them. At the time, I recognized this fear and made me feel like I had to diminish myself, because I felt like I was too much. I felt like people don't understand me. I felt like I don't belong here. And later on, I started to realize it was fear, but it was more of a reverence type of fear. It was more of an awestruck type of fear that people would have. And it would make me feel like I said or did something wrong. So I had to reel it back in. And so I spent a lot of time kind of hiding that aspect of myself. And even still, as I grew, I would pray or do something or say something, and people would just be like, whoa, stunned, the room silent, everyone staring, and it would make me feel very uncomfortable. And so this whole transition of walking around with a fresh bald head is like everyone's staring at me. So it made me get really comfortable with being stared at. And that was part of a lesson that I felt like I needed at the time, was being comfortable in my own skin and being comfortable with being looked at, because it was like this underlying message of, you're going to be in the spotlight at some point. You're going to be leading people at some point where people are going to be looking at you or looking towards you. So get comfortable. It's like, okay, I'm comfortable. And so that happens, and I'm just questioning everything and researching different things and et cetera, et cetera. The next year, 2008, I end up meeting someone. I consider this person a warlock. They may not even consider themselves that. But I end up meeting a spiritual person who just opened my mind to so many different things. I was learning about the third eye, learning about the chakras, learning about sage, learning about meditation frequencies, etc. Learned so much in this time span. And I remember at the time, it was my sophomore year of undergrad, and I lived off-campus apartments, and people would just stop visiting me because I had like ancient Reiki signs and symbols posted all over my walls, and people were like, what the hell is going on in here? And people just would not visit me. And then on top of that, I had went to a gun range, and I had posted my score, my little body man on the wall. So people were like, okay, we're going to stay over here. And, yeah, it was just like all of this stuff was making more sense, but it was still that back and forth, like letting go of all I used to know and reaching for what the unfamiliar, the unknown. And it was like, yo, this feels more resonating with me, but what about all this other stuff? And this can't be real, and I'm just like, I'm just making this up. This is me just going into my fantasy overlay escape syndrome. This isn't real. And it was just like more and more and more I tried to run from that. Like, this can't be real. And then I was like, oh, snap, it is real. And it was just like more and more people would show up to remind me, like, no, you're not just making this up. This is some real stuff. And then the previous year, the next year after that, so 2009, I had my premature activation, where I met a false twin, if you will. And I wouldn't call it that at the time. I didn't know about that stuff at the time. I didn't know about twin flames, soulmates, none of that. I kind of did, but kind of didn't, And just like I didn't really know about the third eye, but I kind of did. Because when I was younger, I was like 14. Like 13, 14, somewhere around there. My favorite anime show, I love anime and just different cultures in general, but my favorite anime show is Yu Yu Hakusho. And my favorite character at the time, his name is Hiei. Now, Hiei has a third eye, a Jagan eye. And I always was like really fascinated by him. Now, somewhere between 2008, 2009, I remember this day so vividly, where I was riding in the car from North Carolina to Virginia at the time. I was in the passenger seat, and when my parents were driving, I'm sitting in the passenger seat, and I closed my eyes. And this was like the first time that I started learning about all this stuff, and I felt my third eye open. And what I saw was, it was like pure gold and just milk and honey, just like liquid, pure love. I can't even explain it in words. It just looked like something I've never seen before, and it freaked me out. And I opened my eyes real quick, like, what was that? But I actually felt it. I felt like my forehead opened up. It was a really incredible experience. And I was just like, whoa, what was that? Where was that? And it felt like somewhere I'd been before, but not. And it was like, have I been there? Where was that? That was like, everything was so golden. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, I just did explain it, but I don't know how to explain it anymore than everything looking like pure liquid gold, and not even able to really know it. I just had this feeling of like, whoa, that was intense. And so in the encounter of meeting a false twin, I had this premature activation try to unlock. And at the end of that karmic season, our relationship, it sent me into a spiral of a downward spiral. And in that pit, in that mist, I started just awakening even more, right? But because the conditions weren't necessarily true, they weren't real at that time. So it was like my spirit was trying to activate me to something that I had the conditions weren't ready for. And so I started just like not being able to sleep, not being able to eat, then eventually not being able to talk, not with words at least, and just completely not even here, right? I just was not even literally on this planet anymore, basically. And I had transcended to another dimension. And in this time, I was able to just know stuff. And, people would find out later and be like, wait, how did you already know that? Or I would be able to pinpoint everything in every book. It was just an interesting thing. And every time this awakening would happen, I would be mistaken for the second coming. I was mistaken for Jesus. And I'm like, what? No, that's not what this is. I'm a representative, but that's not who I am. And I understand why people could see that in me or through me, but misunderstood it. And so that activation or ascension I was going through made people really start to turn inward to kind of try to get themselves right, quote unquote. And so in this time, I had this incredible moment of just clarity, if you will. And this is what really set the tone for the next decade that proceeded after this. I was drinking some grape juice, and the Spirit told me very clearly. Now, at this time, I had not come out to my parents as gay. I had not disclosed that information to them. And at this time, the Spirit told me, you're going to tell your parents the truth about yourself, or else you're not going to live past this day. And I'm like, man, that's a little bit extreme, don't you think? You being a little dramatic there? Like, I'm good. And literally, my health starts to deteriorate right there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to die. And even though I'm still fighting with this, like, that's a bit extreme. I'm good. Let me just not do that. And the conditions got worse and worse and worse. And my parents were kind of freaking out because they're like, whoa, what is happening to you? Like, you're not looking too good there. And I'm like deteriorating. And then I just confessed it. I just said, look, guys, this is the truth about who I am. And it was like such a release. And when that happened, it was like all of these spirits, I just saw all these spirits just ascend upward. And I started speaking in a different language, and just a lot of different stuff was happening. And I could no longer see where I was anymore, because I was in a different place. And this place looked like a purple village. That's the best I can describe it. It was like a purple fortress. And I was just like, I don't know where I'm at. And a whole list of things happened after that. And but one thing that I will share that did happen was we hadn't had any type of weather this whole year. And that night it snowed for the first time. It snowed, like heavy snow. And I kept hearing something hitting the window, and I'm like, what in the hell is that? Like, what is that? But I couldn't move. I couldn't really even care at the time what that was. I was just like, all right, whatever, it's outside, I don't care. And I remember waking up that next morning and just feeling like I don't know where I'm at, and everything was so illuminated. It was like I could see clearly for the first time. I was seeing with new eyes, and I was like, where am I? What is happening? But I had this peace. It was like I was afraid, but I had this peace surrounding me. And my mom at the time says to me that she saw a bunch of angels, thousands of angels in the field, in our yard. And I was like, whoa. And when she said it, it was like I felt it. And I was just like, whoa. And I was like, what happened? And I was still kind of just like foggy, like I just woke up. And I go to answer the door because we had someone come over. And I go to answer the door, and I'm like, wait, it snowed? And they're like, yeah, it's like 6 feet of snow out here. And I'm like, what? It hasn't snowed all year. Like, why is it snowing? And I was like, was that what was hitting the window? And it was just like, oh, snap. Like, all this snow. And it was just this pure moment of just feeling like, wow. And then, there's a whole list of things that happened after that would take a whole nother hour for me to really dive into and explain. But to give you just a nugget of what my spiritual awakening was like, it was definitely otherworldly, to say the least. It was definitely like, if I tell anybody this, nobody's going to understand. And so if you feel that no one's going to understand it, if you tell them, tell the right people. The right people hear you differently, and we're here to understand, and we're here to help and guide people through these awakenings. I was very grateful at the time that I was going through this. My uncle was there, and he says to me, I think you were in a different dimension. And for some reason, I had never even heard of 5D at the time, but I told him, I think I was in the fifth dimension. Didn't even know 5D actually existed. I didn't even know that was actually a real place. And I told him, like, I think I was in the fifth dimension. And when he said it, it made so much sense to me. So there will be people on your path who will resonate with you, who will get you, who will understand you, who will be there to say the right thing at the right time. And I definitely had those people on my path in my journey. And like I said, it continued for the next 10 years. And I actually saw two things that happened that I'll share. One of those was the next time I had another false start of my spiritual awakening was 2013. It was 2012, 2013. And in that time, I had took a picture and I posted on Instagram. I have since then deleted it. But I took this picture on Instagram. And for those who have been following me on Instagram, you may know what I'm talking about. You may have seen it. I took this picture by the elementary school in my neighborhood at the time. And my caption said something like, be grateful for your educators, for you won't always have them. And I think it felt very prophetic when I heard that. But it didn't make sense at the time. So in my process of decluttering my page, that was one of the posts that I got rid of. And I just remember at that time feeling like no one's going to understand this. And it was like one person that liked the post, and I was just like, yeah, this is wild. And that's kind of what we're in right now. People who are having to homeschool may be able to have much appreciation for the educators, because educators are so undervalued. So maybe we're able to have a more grateful attitude towards them and towards people who we may not have appreciated fully before. And the other thing that I got, basically every time I've transcended or had an awakening, after I've had an awakening, or once I started to have my first spiritual awakening, is that the commercials were different. I was seeing television differently. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And each time it was this false start of the media wanting to change but not being able to. And what it had to do is it had to take a full collapse in order to have the media change. So now when you turn on the radio, the TV, whatever, the commercials are different now, because it's like the activation is true. It's true now. And it cannot have this false start of, we're almost there. No, we're not. Just back and forth, push and pull. But I saw it happening. And I saw these different light worker starseeds beings that were trying to activate this. But for some reason, it wasn't able to activate at that time. And so those are a few things that I noticed on my journey. Those are a few things I'm going to share. There's so much more out there, and there's so much more to learn. And I'm grateful for all of the people who have been on my path, my journey, and all the experiences I've had to get me to where I'm at now, because there's a lot of people who may be waking up and who are going to be searching. So search no more. We're out here. We're available. So I thank you all for listening to this. This was my spiritual awakening process. I'd love to hear yours. You can send me those messages, connect with me on Instagram, Agent K21 Podcast, or in any other way that you feel. Please connect. I'm sending my love, my grace, and joy to all the people. Thank you all for being here, and I'll talk to you until next time.